Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the movie Red Notice. As you can tell by the sound of my voice, I'm a little ill. It's not the vid, it's just a cold, but I only get sick every once in a while, and this time I decided to take my voice. Red Notice is a movie directed by Rawson Thurber, who is not a stranger to making comedy movies, but maybe a stranger to actual humor. The only two movies that I've seen of his that I actually enjoyed were Easy A and Dodgeball, but he's also made movies like We're the Millers, Skyscraper, Central Intelligence, and The Wedding Ringer. Thurber has worked with Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne Johnson in multiple films in the past, so I'm not surprised that he decided to go and get them to make this film. Dwayne Johnson plays an Interpol agent named John Hartley, who is attempting to track down the world's most notorious art thief, whose name is Nolan Booth, played by Ryan Reynolds. Detective Hartley receives a tip that Booth is going to try and steal one of these eggs, and in the process of this, he has his first encounter with Nolan Booth. Things start getting twisted from there, and what we end up with is an adventure buddy cop movie with Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds, with Gal Gadot used sparingly throughout. There's tons of twists and turns and a lot of both expected and unexpected moments. There's a lot of humor, as we've seen Thurber attempt in his previous works. I will admit I was drawn by the star power. I like Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot, and Dwayne Johnson is just kind of like, I have to watch his movies. They're like a guilty pleasure, but they're starting to not be, because he's literally in every single movie. So I thought I would check it out. So without further ado, let's get into 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. The plot of this movie seems pretty simple. You have an Interpol agent played by Dwayne Johnson who's trying to track down the art thief played by Ryan Reynolds. Even though it seems like the central plot of the film should be that the art thief is trying to find all 3 of these eggs because they're worth a fortune, it doesn't go that way. With all of the different things they're throwing at this and seeing what sticks, the eggs kind of take a back seat. Wow, so much of what I'm saying right now just sounds absolutely ridiculous. Ryan Reynolds is hunting eggs. Dwayne Johnson's trying to stop him. The only redeeming factor is Gal Gadot. That is it. It seems simple enough that you could really make at least an entertaining movie with this, but unfortunately, what they decide to do is throw in an unprecedented amount of twists and turns. There's so many in this movie that it's hard to keep track of. In fact, it's pretty much like, instead of tastefully including twists and turns, they decided to throw a whole package of darts at the board and see what sticks. Well, I feel like the plot is decently self-aware that it's not going to be a fantastic movie. I still am just frustrated that they didn't take time to try to make one plot better. Instead, they just threw everything they had at it and were like, we'll see what people think. So plot gets a thumbs down. 2 is family friendliness. There are a lot of sensual/sexual jokes in this movie. The director was like, Ryan Reynolds, do your thing. Dwayne Johnson, do your thing. Insult Dwayne Johnson, but Dwayne Johnson, establish yourself as the alpha male. So there's this bantering that goes back and forth like a lot of comedy movies are doing now, and a lot of that talk is inappropriate jokes. I feel like there was a lot of potentially ad-lib involved, and that resulted in a lot of inappropriate jokes and comments. This is not a movie that you would just throw on to have your kids watch. It's not appropriate. In addition to those things, there's action, there's violence, there's language. So overall, I'd have to give family friendliness a thumbs down. 3 is acting and script. The only 3 actors or actresses that you know in this movie are the 3 that the movie uses as its selling point. Gal Gadot, Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds. Their acting is pretty decent, but like I said, it does seem like there's just a lot of ad-lib. There's not really that great of a thing for them to follow. They're just insulting each other and bickering back and forth. But I mean, Ryan Reynolds is Ryan Reynolds, Dwayne Johnson is Dwayne Johnson, Gal Gadot is awesome as always. But I will say that, like the feeling that we got when we first saw Ryan Reynolds in The Proposal, this movie was the exact opposite. Because of all the things that Ryan Reynolds said and did in this movie, it turned me off to him to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can watch another Ryan Reynolds movie for at least 6 months. And Dwayne Johnson plays the same character in every single movie, so I wasn't even surprised by that. There's no performance in this movie that's outstanding. No one did an outstanding job. It was just all meh. The script, I don't even have to talk about the script. This movie is literally such a terrible movie. They just threw in all of the cliches and twists that they could and didn't try at all. The writing was terrible. The script was bad. The acting was not excellent. It was all just bleh. So acting and script gets a thumbs down. 4 is character development. There are a couple moments in here where you see some character development, little glints of it, but none of it really goes anywhere. Both Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne Johnson, they play the same characters in every movie, so it just felt like there was no character development because they're the same in every movie. I'd say that probably the most story progression we see is with Ryan Reynolds, but it wasn't enough to turn the tides of character development. There's basically only 3 characters in this film, and when you don't develop any of them, it doesn't really bode well for the audience. So overall, character development gets a thumbs down. 5 is CG. There was some really obnoxious CG in this movie that just was not good at all. I say near the beginning of the movie there was a pretty cool parkour sequence with Ryan Reynolds that I thought maybe was going to be a thing in the movie, but it was something we only saw at one point. And even with that parkour, not only was it CG, but they used character CG as well. And I was like, this is so tacky and awful. It definitely pulled me out of the film. CG gets a thumbs down. 6 is rewatchability. No, not even a little bit. After watching this movie once, your mind is just numb and you're frustrated because you're like, wow, I thought that star power would maybe make this movie decent. And then you looked at the director and you look at what you're actually watching and you're like, oh, I guess that makes sense. And the worst part is this movie did set itself up for a sequel. Worst move you can do as a director, and oh, please don't make a sequel. Rewatchability gets a thumbs down. It's like they didn't spend any time at all making this movie. I could not diss on Gal Gadot because she's amazing, but Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, just not impressed by them in this movie, not impressed by the director, not impressed by any of it. Overall, I have to give Red Notice a 5.5 out of 10. The dialogue was worthless. There were so many plots you lost track, so many twists and turns that were completely unnecessary when really you only need to focus on 1 or 2. I wouldn't just say you don't have to pay attention. I would say that you have to actually disengage your brain in order to be able to enjoy this movie. So I would definitely not recommend watching Red Notice on a Friday or Saturday night. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all are having a great week. I look forward to getting more content to you soon. Thank you so much for the love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.